my name is Leanne Erickson. I'm a fellow here for the Business Impact Lab. I'm also faculty here at the Woodbury School of Business, and I'm so happy to be here. I am lucky because I get to announce our speaker. After we hear from Joel, we will have a few other announcements at the end, so make sure you stay here very much. Okay, so we are so incredibly lucky to hear from Joel Rohatinsky today. Joel received his, I'm going to give you a quick bio and then hand it over. Joel received his undergraduate and master's degrees in accounting from Birmingham University. He also competed as a member of the track and field and cross-country teams. After a brief foray into the big public, guys, I don't know this. It's okay, just call me. For the big four public accounting, Jared pursued his entrepreneurial aspirations and co-founded a startup in the production and technology space. He served as CEO of that company for nearly a decade before transitioning to a career in venture capital. In his initial role as Chief Strategy Officer at his venture capital firm, Jared served as a fractional CEO to dozens of the firm's portfolio companies, gaining exposure to a broad range of industries and business models. He later became Chief Operating Officer of the firm and shifted his focus by optimizing internal operations and improving the firm's overall service delivery to its portfolio companies. He recently took a new position as Chief Operating Officer at Square & Company, a high-growth accounting advisory firm. Jared is passionate about growth, continuous improvement, and empowering his teams to excel. He enjoys traveling, DIY, home improvement projects, spending time with his wife and 4 boys. Put your hands together for Jared.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being able to be here. This is fun. I appreciate the info and wanted to just give maybe a little bit more background. So as was mentioned, I did my education in accounting, did my undergrad and master's, and then did not work in accounting after that. So people ask all the time, do you regret the decision to still get your accounting degree? And I always say, not at all. Are there any accounting students in here by chance? Okay, that's all right. So I think that accounting was the best thing that could have happened for my business career, simply because accounting is a hard language to speak. And if you're going to be in business management, you need to learn how to speak it at some point. So pay attention to your accounting classes. So I did do a really brief stint with the Big Four, and then went on to entrepreneurship and venture capital and kind of went through that. And then along the way, we kind of had an interest in professional services, and that's what I ended up doing at my venture capital firm, and what I do now at Squire is lead professional services team. So I think the things that I'll talk about today are a little bit skewed to that side, but it should be applicable all across the board. So has anyone here heard of Squire? Or just up there, raise your hand if you're Squire familiar. So we're an accounting firm. I think that's how a lot of people know us, but much more than accounting is the advisory work that we do. So we're actually only about 50% of our revenue comes from audit and tax, and the remaining 50% comes from essentially business consulting. So we have a wealth management practice, we have outsourced CFO services, we do ERP implementations, we actually have web developers on staff who develop our own software that we sell and implement. So we'd like to say that we are the business transformation partner. So if the company's trying to go from 5 million to 10, from 10 to 20, 20 to 100, we're the partner that you can plug in and help grow your business. Then. Really quick, before we get going, I do just want to get a quick sense for what the room is faculty versus student. So faculty raise hands just so I can see. Okay, I have our students then. Cool. Okay, well, because I come from venture capital, and I love a good pitch deck, pitch decks always start off with explaining a problem, and then they go on to explain why they have the solution to that problem, right? So the problem with business management, in my mind, is not that we don't have enough theory out there, right? I went to a warehouse book fair the other day, and there was literally an entire wall, bigger than this wall, full of business books by different authors that I've never heard of, all with different theories, all with different best practices and management styles. I don't think that the problem is that we don't have enough of that stuff to go around. I think the problem is that we sometimes lack the practical tools for implementing those best practices. In general, I believe that business managers instinctively know what they need to do, right? They know that they need to hold their people accountable. But they lack a tool for holding their people accountable. They don't know what that means or how to do it. They know that they need to do strategic planning, but they don't have a great strategic planning tool or really know what that means or how to go about doing it. So I think that the problem is we just don't have enough practical tools. And that's what we'll go over today. I don't think there's a silver bullet. There's no like one management framework or one book that is going to answer all the questions, but there are a bunch of tools that I've found through the course of my career that are really simple, but I think you're 80 or 90% of the way there. So this is a big list of them, and this is essentially the outline of the presentation I'll give today. Each one of these bullet points is a different tool, and there's a slide for each one. And I've given a slide deck to Alyssa. She can share it with anyone who's interested afterwards. All of the links, other than two, are going to be live. So if anyone wants to download the templates that I'll be showing, feel free to grab the deck, and you can have access to all of these things. So I was thinking we should reply for Q&A. What time, by the way, should we wrap up? Good. 9:30, 9:45? 9:30. 9:30. So I have some Q&A time built in, but as we go, like, I was told this is meant to be like conversational and interactive, so I would actually prefer it if you guys interrupt me with questions so I can feel like I'm engaging more in conversation and just talking out of it. So please let me know if there's questions. And just a quick note, I kind of lump them into the different types of tools. So these first few deal with strategic planning. The next few are operational tools, and then finally people management tools. All right, so the first one is it's called the impact filter. Has anyone read Who Not How by Dan Sullivan? Okay, definitely recommend it. So Dan Sullivan is a business management guru, and Who Not How is based on the premise that people should focus on their, in accounting we call it your taboo, your highest and best use, and essentially do nothing else, right? So focus on what you're good at and leave the rest to other people who are really good at whatever that thing is. So he has a tool called the impact filter where anytime he needs to get something done and it's not his sweet spot, it's not his exact strike zone, he'll find a who to get that thing done. So he'll stop thinking about, oh, how can I do this? How am I going to get it done? And he'll just go find someone else to do it. And anytime that he does that, he writes up what he calls an impact filter, which is essentially just a short document that outlines the vision for whatever the thing is that he's on about. So he's tasking someone with doing an initiative, and he essentially creates a blueprint and outlines as if you're an architect. So here's exactly what I want you to build. He gives it to the builder, and then they go over it together. They sit down and they talk through all the details, and then the builder goes away for a while and takes time to think about how they're going to get it done. And then they come back to the architect and present, okay, I heard you, I saw your plans, I saw the blueprints, here's how I'm going to build it. Is this the right thing? And it just ensures that there's alignment. Make sure that when you ask someone to do something, they hear exactly what you're saying and don't go off spinning their wheels, spending way too much time doing something else. I always tell people that this should be used to manage down and up. Meaning all of my direct reports know that this tool exists. And I tell them all the time, hey, if I ever task you with doing something, if I ever ask for a deliverable or I assign you an initiative, and you're feeling like it's overwhelming and you don't exactly know what I'm looking for, come to me, come manage up and say, Jared, I actually don't know exactly what you're looking for. Can you do an impact filter really quick? So let me show you an example of what this looks like. Okay. So it's a simple word doc. And at the top is the impact filter that explains the what and the why. And then down at the bottom is the mechanism. So the architect gives these top 2 pages to the builder, and then the builder thinks about it and comes back with this bottom page explaining here's how I'm going to do it. So you answer 6 questions. when you put this together. You describe the purpose of the project. Why is it important right now? How does it tie into the company strategy? You talk about the importance of the thing. You talk about the ideal outcome. So this is what success looks like and feels like. Talk about the best results. So if you knock this out of the park and this goes as well as it possibly can be, what are going to be the transformative results that come out of this? And then my favorite one is actually number 5 here, worst results. So this is where you describe, hey, if you really screw this up, if it doesn't go the way that I'm wanting it to go, here's what that would feel like. And then finally, you give success criteria. So this is your opportunity to outline like specific bullet point deliverables that you're looking for. Okay, so the architect and the builder sit down. The architect has already written this out, and you have a half-hour discussion about it. You read it together, you talk through the bullet points, the builder gets asks questions of the architect answers them, and then the builder goes away and thinks about it, and they come back and they present this out sheet. So they outline what are the inputs I'm going to take, what are the outputs that I need to deliver, what tools am I going to use, and then they go off and they build. So you have 2 opportunities basically to make sure that there's alignment. Opportunity number 1 is when the architect gives the impact filter to the builder, we talk about it, and then a week later you meet together again, the builder shows the architect, here's exactly how I'm planning to do this thing, is this okay? Yep, we're aligned. And what I'm doing. Yeah.
Do you use this to help you prioritize projects, or are you already prioritizing it first and then putting it through?
Oh, interesting. So, no, I've never used this as a prioritization tool. It's more just to make sure that people understand exactly what's being asked. And it should be noted, I wouldn't give an impact filter if the deliverable that's being asked for is something that can be done like within a week, right? This is a big, like this will take you a quarter type of project to do. It's something that someone's going to spend 50, 100 hours on.
I just feel like those common things, we get so many of those projects that come through sometimes that it's like sometimes that prioritizing is kind of skipped.
I have a different tool for that, which is Rock in EOS. So I don't think I have Rock out here, but if anyone is interested, EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. A lot of these tools come from that. And they have something called rocks, which is each quarter you pick 2 to 7 big things that are bigger than half, bigger than week-long things, and you go through with your manager and say, hey, these are the big, hairy things I'm trying to tackle. Are these the right priorities? The manager should know, yeah, that ties in perfectly to the strategic plan of the firm. And, yeah. Okay, impact filter. Questions, comments? Yeah.
Just really clarify, please, who's the builder and who's the architect?
Yeah, so the architect is whoever is assigning the initiative, and then the builder is whoever can actually be doing the doing, right? So in this example, I built this for a general counsel, so our in-house attorney that we have. We at my firm, we didn't have a really robust enterprise risk management (ERM) plan, and we're big enough that we need it. And so the board said, "Hey, we need to task our attorney with building an ERM and then maintaining it." And I said, "Okay, that's a big thing. We need to give a lot of direction." So I built out this impact filter and gave it to our general counsel. We spent an hour going through it together, so I made sure that he knows exactly what we wanted. And then he came back to me with that bottom page and said, okay, I think I heard you, here's what I'm going to do, are we aligned?
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to the next one. So a DSP, a dynamic strategic plan. This is something that my colleagues and I made at my venture capital firm, and this is when we were advising like early stage startup companies. And when you're an early stage startup company, really all you want to think about is your product, right? You're just so jazzed about whatever the thing is that you're building, whether it's a software tool or a clothing brand, like you're just hyper focused on creating a cool product, which is great, but that's not strategic planning. So we created this really simple one sheet, one document thing to organize all the key priorities that the organization needs to work on. The key here is that it should be reviewed at least monthly. So the B in dynamic, I always emphasize that. Strategic planning should not be a thing that you do like once a year. You have your December retreat and your year-end planning and looking forward to next year, and then you set it and never go look at it again. To really be effective, strategic planning needs to happen monthly. You need to be revisiting whatever you said you were going to do and figuring out, are those still the right priorities that you should be focused on as an organization? And I think the most important thing that most strategic plans lack are accountability and timelines. So the DSP has a solution for both of those. So let me pull it up. And I apologize in advance for the formatting errors. I usually keep this in a Google Doc, but I had to put it here in a Word doc, so it's kind of funky. But okay, so the key here, you can see up at the top, we do this on a 1-year cycle. So these are the 4 goals that this sample fantasy company came up with. Revenue growth, raise capital, establish company infrastructure, and then break and build the product. So as you scroll down, you can see that each one of those main goals is broken out. I like this format that we've done because you can kind of expand and collapse these sections to make it more digestible all at a glance. But as you can see, the key here is that you have for each goal, you break it out into the different strategic initiatives. So for the goal of revenue growth, that's a big one. We have it broken out into go-to-market strategy as an initiative. Developing a brand platform is a separate initiative. Testing direct sales approaches, another one. Establishing channel partnerships, another one. And the key is that each one of these, you can see it has a timeline, so Q1, Q2, etc. And then it has what department and what person is going to be responsible. So the format that we came up with, we call these the pipes. We said whatever name or department is between the pipes is going to be the primary person. That's the throat to choke. That's the person mainly responsible for getting that thing done. And then anyone after the pipes, those are the supporting class. Those are the people that you can call on when you need help. So by the time you're done with this, you're going to have 80, 100 lines that outline the actual things that need to get done. So it focuses more on the how rather than just the what. But most importantly, you have a timeline and you have accountability. And again, you review this on a monthly basis and ask yourself, are we still on the right track? Are we still focusing on the right things? And then you update it as needed. Questions or comments on that? Yeah.
Kind of off the topic a little bit, but how do you sort of go about analyzing those assigned tasks and how, say a person who is a web dev who might not be good at, sort of talking to people, do you give them the supporting task or sort of like how does that sort of interplay with your employees and how they function?
Yeah, so great question. You shouldn't, I never assign strategic roles for people that aren't going to be involved strategically in the business, right? So in a larger company, you're going to have a head of, you're going to have a CTO, right, that manages all the developers, or a VP of product or something. They're the ones that are going to be sitting down going through this process, and then they will take the technical things to say go and do. Now, if you're a small company, though, and there's only 5 of you, and one of them is the developer, then you better pray that your developer is a good planning and strategic person, or else you're probably doing that with the wrong people. Great question.
Do you use KPIs to assess their performance?
Oh, scorecard, yes. So each of these should have, and this is a sample company, right? This is ABC. So each of these should have metrics tied to them. So at the top, you can see like the revenue growth. You always want to put in an actual measurable. So in this case, we want to reach 5 million in calendar year 26, or achieve 20% month-over-month increase. So you always want to have something concrete that you're shooting for.
Assuming that they do review this number, like suggested, what kind of documentation is needed when you have these numbers?
Great, you update it live. Right, so this is a living, breathing photo, right? And you have document version control now, so you can always look back and see what it was once upon a time, or just create a copy of it and start over. But yeah, the whole purpose of this, again, I'll emphasize the D, dynamic and strategic planning, right? You just whatever you decide in that meeting, you capture it right there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So for your sort of group, would you sit down with a smaller business owner and kind of go over the sheet once a month with them?
Exactly. Yeah. So we would do it at the start of the year. We would have a full day, or sometimes well into multiple days, planning session to hash out what everyone thought was most important. And then monthly, we tended to go on two schedules. Monthly, it would have like a 2-hour review. Quarterly, it would have like a half day and all day review. Maybe dig in a little bit more. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next item, Lean Canvas. So I assume that a lot of you have at least heard the phrase Lean Startup, or kind of know a little bit. So when we say Lean, we're not talking about Lean manufacturing. It kind of has the same roots, but not. So Lean Startup is all about iterating quickly, testing things quickly, and moving on to the next option. So if anyone is into entrepreneurship or wanting to be, I definitely recommend starting with the book by Eric Rice called The Lean Startup. And then Ash Maria wrote kind of a follow-on book that's called Running Lean. So in Running Lean, that's where the Lean Canvas is first presented. So a Lean Canvas, it's similar to a dynamic strategic plan, but it's higher level, and it has 9 prescribed boxes. I'll show you an example in a minute. 9 prescribed categories that you fill out to basically state the entire strategy of your company. So it is most often used in startups, but I do want to emphasize this. It's really useful as well for established companies that are trying to roll out a new initiative, a new business line, a new whatever. This can be applicable to companies of all stages. It is designed for rapid iteration. So I'll show you in a minute. You fill out the 9 boxes, and then what you do is you start testing the riskiest ones. So you ask yourself, what is kind of the domino, but if this thing falls, everything else is going to fall on that one, right? Because if anything's going to make it fall, I want to know now, rather than building this whole new division or this whole new company. So you put the riskiest one, you test it, you prove it out, and then you move on to the next riskiest one, and so on. So here's an example. I have it in sheet and doc format. You'll see it most common like this. I'll zoom out a little bit so it's a better view. It's kind of jarring when you first see it, so don't be like too stressed out. But you can see there's 9 boxes, and they're all. The way this came about, you've heard the term product market fit, right? You've heard us talking about that. The left side is supposed to be product, and the right side is supposed to be market. So that's why it's like you go from 1 to 2, that's all over the place. So ignore the numbering. But you can see here the 7 different boxes that you're supposed to fill out. So you explain the problem that you're trying to solve. You explain the customer segment for who is it that has those problems. You explain your unique selling proposition. You talk about the key metrics, the channels you're going to use to sell. Basically, you fill out your sheet, and then again, you see what is most risky. And what's really interesting is when you do this exercise, this is the last bullet point I had on here, you use it as an alignment check, meaning do this not as a group first. So if you're a small startup and you've got 3 co-founders, everyone go to your own room, fill this out, and you're going to be shocked when you come back into the same room together, and person A will be like, what? You think that's our cost structure? It's totally this other thing. And you'll discover misalignments that like, oh man, we've been not on the same page about this for a long time. So once you do it separately, do it together, decide what it's going to be, and then you start testing these things. So that is a Lean Canvas. Again, really useful for startups especially, but also for any new business segment where you're about to launch. Great. Next is an issues list. This comes from EOS, again, Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's an awesome business management framework that I highly, highly recommend. There's a book called Traction by Dino Whitman. So if you're wanting a good read that's super practical, Traction is probably the best thing that you can read. Basically, an issues list, it's a way to keep track of stuff that you need to resolve. Outstanding questions or open-ended issues, things that you need to get to the bottom of. It's just a place to write those things down. And there's two types. So type one is a one-on-one issues list. And by the way, issues, that word tends to have a negative connotation. Don't think about issue in terms of like a bad thing. It's just an open-ended question. Okay. So there's a one-on-one issues list, and then there's a group or a team issues list. So a one-on-one issues list, I have one with each of my direct reports, and then I have one with my CEO that I report to. And it's literally just a spreadsheet. Okay, so anytime during the week when I think of something and I'm like, oh, I gotta talk to Bob, right, that reports to me about this one thing. Well, if that thing is super urgent and like I need to talk to Bob right now, I'll go talk to Bob. There's a message from Bob himself. So if something comes up and I need a resolution right then, great, I can go resolve it then. Otherwise, I'm going to save me and Bob a lot of switching costs. And instead of just hitting him right then with the thing, I'm going to put it on our issues list. And he's going to do the same thing. As he thinks of stuff during the week, and he's like, oh, I got to talk to Jared and get approval for that thing. If it's super urgent, he'll come to me right then. Otherwise, if he knows that our weekly one-on-one is on Thursday and today's Tuesday and this thing can wait, he's just going to put it on the issues list. So during the week, we're building up this list of things that we need to talk about, and then that's basically our agenda for when we meet weekly for a management check-in. Same thing with the team. So I have a weekly team meeting with all my direct reports every Monday morning. And we have this issues list. And during the week, as we're all thinking of things that we need to collaborate on or talk about as a team, again, if it's urgent, we'll hop on Teams and we'll talk about it, or Slack. But if it's something that can wait or needs a longer discussion, just put it on the issues list. So let me show you what it looks like. All right, so in this group, I've got two different tabs. There's a team one and a one-on-one. So first, we'll click on one-on-one up here. Okay, so here's my issues list with one of my direct reports. His name is RD, and you can see some examples on here. So throughout the week, I thought of some things, RD thought of some things, and we tossed them on here. So we put the date you added it, you have who thought of the thing, is it me or RD, and then you list out the topic. What's really good about this is you can kind of prep yourself for going into the meeting. Whether you're the manager or the managee, you can get onto this at any time and know, okay, going into my meeting, here's what the other person wants to talk about. And then when you resolve stuff, so these are open-ended questions, these are ones that we haven't resolved yet. Once you resolve something, you put it down in this section. The reason I love this column right here is because how many times have you thought you resolved an issue with someone, you decided on something together, and then a week later you were like, what? You thought that's what you decided? No way, it was this other thing. So you write it out together live in the meeting. Here's what we decided. Here's the resolution. Here's what we're going to do. You capture it, and then it lives there forever. So you never delete these things. You just, once you solve something, you write a resolution, you grab it, and you stick it down in this section. Okay, super easy way to just keep track of stuff that you decide together. And then same thing with the team. So this one's a little bit different, but same concept. So here are a bunch of example issues that during the week someone on the team could have thought of. When we get together for our weekly team meeting, I give everyone 3 votes, and it's highest score wins. So you get to vote for 3 things that you want to talk about, and at the start of the meeting, everyone enters a 3, a 2, and a 1 on the things that they want to prioritize talking about. And then as the facilitator of the meeting, that allows me to see, okay, the thing that scored the highest is this. And I can choose still, as the leader of the group, even though they think this is the most important thing, I might be like, yeah, but guys, we got to talk about this first. We're going to prioritize this thing. So it allows me to see what they think is most important. And usually we just go based on that order, right? And if time in the meeting runs out, we end on time anyways, right? And then we pick up next time and everyone votes again. And it's the same idea. Once you come up with a resolution, you note it there in column D, and then it lives forever as a documented solution that stays down here. Yes, question.
So just to reiterate, this is also live and dynamic shared space. So while you are commenting, someone else can also see your comments and vice versa.
Okay, yes, we pull this up. First, during the meeting, right, everyone has this thing up. if the meeting, oh yeah, so everyone has access to it, and the thought is, again, our weekly team meeting is Monday. If you think about something on Wednesday, if it's urgent, bring it up now. Otherwise, like, don't make everyone put a skipping off, pull them out of whatever they're working on to focus on their thing. Monday morning's a time for us to solve issues together. So toss it on there and we'll resolve it then. Yeah.
So on average, how many do you usually have on sort of
Which great stuff is. So let's see. So I've got 6 direct reports, and then I have an issues list with my boss. Probably have 12 things outstanding on my list with my boss right now, and my direct reports at any given time will have like 3 to 15, depending. And then on the team one, man, I mean, we have up to like 20 sometimes. And depending on how hairy the things are, we'll resolve anywhere from like 3 to 5 per meeting. And then best practices, you have either quarterly or an annual team retreat and kind of talk about bigger picture stuff, and with whatever time is left over, then you knock out the rest of the stuff on your issues list. What's interesting though is you'll see that over time, some of the same stuff just stick to the bottom of the voting list, right? Like, no one gives a crap about should we get a software or a software machine in the break room. So that thing is always voted low. And what you'll notice is that, okay, that thing has been on there for 3 months. Yeah. You don't think we need to talk about it. Let's just drop this thing off because we're not going to get it. No one cares. Or, you know what, let's take that thing off the team issues list and let's put it on the issues list between Austin and Jared, and we'll resolve it on our own. It doesn't need to be a whole team discussion.
So do you use this instead of an agenda and an action plan?
So I use this instead of an agenda for my one-on-ones. For my team meetings, this is part of the agenda. So I use in EOS, it's called the L10, Central Level 10 meeting agenda. So it's a very set, prescribed way that you go through the meeting. And the issues list resolution time is the goal. It's 60 of the 90 minutes that you have in an agenda is dedicated to solving issues.
how long are your meetings that you schedule for the one-on-ones and the teams?
Yeah, for my one-on-ones, depending on the department. So my one with HR, there tends to be a lot of stuff we need to talk about. That's an hour each week. The one with IT, there's actually not that many things that we need to resolve. That's half an hour each week. My team meetings are 2 hours. And at times we shorten it to an hour and a half if we can get to the issues list quickly enough.
And you need to schedule them at the same time.
Always the same time, and they're sacrificed. So these weekly team meetings, Monday morning at 10, like if you're out of office, then great, you miss it. But you don't plan client meetings on top of it. You don't plan anything else. Like you are at the weekly team meeting.
And then you schedule it so that you have extra time, and then you just break out.
No, you guys end on time. Start and end on time. Yeah. So reflection. So everything that I've been describing, it's an L10, a level 10 meeting, and that's one of the tools in EOS, which for EOS is the management framework. Fraction is the name of the book, but it explains in EOS. So, yeah.
This is something I think that at my office we're kind of, there's some tension around it, not tension, but we're trying to figure it out, right? And one of the things that seems to be a hot topic is like, people don't want to be micromanaged, right? But then like people also don't just want to be like off in the wind, right? This seems like it's not micromanaging, but like people have like clear expectations. How do like the employees feel about this? Do they like having like these set meetings with like these like stink things, or do they think like, oh man, like this is just like just
What's awesome about it is that there can be accountability and high trust culture can exist at the same time.
Yeah.
So it does feel micromanaging. In my experience, 99% of the time, people feel like they're being micromanaged, stop it being accountable. So if they're feeling like, hey, get out of my lane, you're messing with what I'm doing, I'd better not be saying it. So this is a great tool. I implemented it. I've only been a squire for 6 months. I implemented this on my team, and unless they're all doing smoke at me, which is I guess maybe they're doing, but they all seem to like it. Like literally all of them have said, oh my gosh, this made such a huge difference. And then all the portfolio companies that I implemented it in, it's been a night and day. Like meetings are awful unless you do it effectively and in a high accountability framework like this. But there's a reason people just groan when it's like, oh, another meeting on my calendar. When done correctly, meetings are awesome. If you do it forward, because you can bring out like so many things that you've been waiting to do and resolve issues if you stay on track. Reflection. Wherever you work, give everyone a copy of the book Fraction by Gino Wickman and follow outcomes. It's awesome. Yeah.
Do you hold on to all of this? Like, how do we or do you just?
Yeah. So once the issue is resolved, I'm gonna pull it in my actual. So this is the live one. So don't look at anything. It's the live second. So you can see this part that I'm scrolling through down here at the bottom. These are the actual resolved issues, and we've noted them here, right? So it never goes away. Like once you note that resolution, again, the problem is people have different memories of what was decided, so you always want to keep track of it. That's why I never delete it. You just move it down to the resolved section.
And you use refresh it every quarter.
Oh no, that's that's an online doc. It's always live. You never have to refresh it, right?
Okay.
So you use a Google Sheet or just Excel online, and it's live.
But I guess it gets pretty big by the end of the year.
Oh yeah, but at the end of the year, it's not like you switch to another one. It's a forever document, right? Yeah. Great question. Thanks, guys. Delegation rules. So this one comes straight from ERS as well. So there's this rule called delegate and elevate. And the theory here is that there's 4 quadrants of things that you do. Stuff that you love and you're really, really good at. Stuff that you like and you're good at. Stuff that you don't like but you're still good at it. And stuff that you don't like and you're awful at it. So the challenge is to write down all of those tactical things that you need to do over the course of the year. All the strategic stuff, the tactical stuff, whatever it is, name them all and put them all on this list. And then the challenge is to pick one thing per quarter that is in one of these bottom 2 quadrants and force yourself to delegate it to someone else on your team. And then elevate yourself, work on things that are more your highest and best use or hobby. So I strongly encouraged all of my direct reports to do this once per quarter. We actually just did it a couple of weeks ago. I sat down with them all and we talked about things that they don't like, even if they're good at it, or stuff that they just don't like and they're not good at it. I made them all pick one thing and we wrote it on our issues list. And I would have them report back to me once they had had the discussion with their direct report that they were trying to take through. To say, okay, did you sign that thing? Did you train them to do it? Or are they pushing it over? So delegate and elevate. And then the companion with this is the operation delegation sheet. So this is something that I created because a member of my team was struggling big time with letting go of some stuff. Because she's super talented, she's really high performing, and struggles to have trust in other people that they can perform as well as her. I think a lot of us all have that. So I was like, you've got to get some of the stuff out. Like you're way too thin. You don't have bandwidth to get the stuff done that you need to do. I'm forcing you to delegate something. So we picked a thing. In our case, it was at Squires, we have life insurance policies on all of our partners that we're the beneficiary of. So if they kick the bucket, you get some buyout, right? It's actually a lot of firms do it. So you have to you have to keep up to date on those monthly premiums, and you have to make sure that you're submitting certain information, and if you don't do it, the policy lapses, and that can be a bad thing because maybe you bought the policy 15 years ago when the partner's healthy, and now they're not healthy. So you got to keep it up to date, and it can be a big deal after that. So she was feeling really anxious, like, I can't let this thing go, no one else is going to do it, what if they are out of office when the monthly thing hits and they forget to pay it, like, that would be awful. And I'm like, yeah, that would be awful. But guess what? You can find someone to do this. So I created this tool for her and said, okay, in order for the eventual owner of this thing to take it over, what has to happen? What do you need to do, and what does the new owner need to do? And we wrote out, as if you're describing this to a 5th grader, here's all the stuff that needs to happen in order for the transfer to take place. And I said, Jen, if you do all this stuff, and she does all this stuff, will you then feel comfortable letting it go? Yes. That's in place that I feel comfortable letting it go. Great. So let's go talk to it. You're going to put this on your one-on-one issues list, and each week you guys are going to revisit this and see if you're doing your stuff and it's usually good stuff. Okay, so this is simply a way to write out all the things that need to happen in order for accountability to transfer. Let me skip ahead because we're short on time. I want to show you most. Let's see. Actually, I want to show you the accountability chart. Okay. Accountability. So we were just talking about it with you, right? It's a big deal. I love to do this exercise called accountability mapping. So you can see here across the bottom, I've got a bunch of different tabs. So there's a tab for each department that I manage. So the chief of staff and the communications team, for administration, admin supervisors, finance, HR, IT, legal, marketing, they all have their own tab. What you do is you make a new row on the spreadsheet for every single practical thing that has to happen in that department. So someone's got to be the administrator of the row before, that's our security back end. Someone's got to manage the VPN, someone's got to own the disaster recovery plan. So all the practical things that need to happen in that department, you list them all out, and then you list an owner of that thing. And there's only ever one name. If you're tempted to put two names, like, oh, well, Jane does that, but John also kind of does it. No, break it down further. Jane does this part, John does this part. Only ever have one name accountable for each thing. Okay, so you break it out that way. And then what we do is, once it's all complete, all the different departments come together and you share this whole thing. So, I've got 10 different tabs, each one's got 50 to 150 rows on it, so there's like 1,000 rows that you need to review. And what's really interesting is when you get together and review it, HR looks at the finance one and they're like, oh, there's 10 things that you have on your list that I thought you were accountable for. And finance is like, you don't do that, I do that, that's my job. So you start discovering these misalignments where person A thinks that that's their job, but person B thinks it's their job. And you also discover gaps where you're like, oh, no one has 401k audits on here. Who's responsible for that? So it gives you a chance to go through it all together as a team and make sure that everything in the whole organization is listed out and everything has an owner. And then the last thing that you do is down here on this bottom part, you lump things together into kind of the 5 main buckets that everyone's responsible for. So, for example, Gavin, he's on our IT team, and he's also accountable for most of our cybersecurity stuff. So, Gavin's 5 things that are kind of like his main job description are listed out here. Same with Creed, same with everyone in the organization. And then what you do is you share this across the entire org so that everyone knows what everyone else's job is. There's nowhere to hide. Right? Like, it's complete accountability. And everyone knows that if something falls through the cracks, they can come to the accountability chart and see who owned that thing, and there's only one name next to it. Okay, so it's extreme role clarity is what this accomplishes. Got it.
Okay, so the HR person may have to know, can you use this in a different setting for competency, to help build people's competency? These are the things you're responsible for, these are the areas you're weak.
Oh, that's a good idea. I don't have to do that, but yeah, I mean, you could create another one that's like venture owner or things that you put succession planning, like here's column B is who owns it now, column C is who's going to own it next year, who's going to pay me or something. That's a great idea. And then you put this together and you can end up creating, whoa, that's a horrible view. Anyways, this is an org chart, but the only difference is that in addition to listing the title and the name, you list out those 5 main things that everyone's kind of responsible for. And again, you share this with the whole organization so everyone knows what everyone's job is. We're at 9:28. We call it there. We'll call it there. Guys, there's more tools in here. Feel free to get, I'm sorry, I didn't go quicker. Feel free to get this. And there are links to each of these items, but you want my email as well. If anyone has questions about this stuff or wants to go through it, shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to chat about it. So, hey, thanks for letting me.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. That was amazing. Okay. Thank you very much. And forgot my visual aids.
Just a quick reminder, this giant QR code right here is a survey for this session. So if you can scan it and give feedback, that would be lovely, and we can share it with you and with ourselves. And then also just a quick reminder to register for our next event, mentoring with Joseph Staples. So this is coming up, and this is going to be November 12th. So put that in the calendars. Okay, great. Thank you all for coming. Thank you again to Jared. And the end. Oh,